Welcome to Stress Mess, a stressless podcast where the chaos is real, the caffeine is strong, and swearing sometimes happens, and that's okay. I'm Samantha Elizabeth, health and wellness coach, chronic overthinker, and proud BFFs to stress itself. Here we're ditching perfection, embracing unfiltered real talk, and making mindset shifts that might just keep us from screaming into the void. Let's get messy. Today, I'm joined by my good friend and fellow solopreneur, Rebecca Burley, founder of Purple Page Marketing. We're diving into what it really takes to run a business without losing your mind, from managing client expectations and outsourcing smartly to tackling brain fog, burnout, and the beautiful chaos of life. If you're trying to build something meaningful and protect your peace, this conversation will hit home. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. My cat is going to be joining us again today. I try to lock her up into a room, not lock her up, like in a bad way or anything, but, try to put her in a room so that way she didn't bother me. And she got out apparently. So clever cat, somehow.
That's okay. She can be our little guest commenter. I love cats. We can't have a cat right now because we had an experience with our late dog being cat aggressive, and we didn't realize that it was a situation until it was a situation.
Yeah.
Now we have a 1-year-old husky puppy. I don't know for a fact that he's cat aggressive, but I really don't want to find out.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Huskies they have a very unique personality, don't they?
He has such a little personality. Like everything has to be his idea.
Uh-huh.
He's like a little teenage boy. Which is exactly what he is for a husky, because he's just over a year old. The vet actually said that he was born around the same week as my son's birthday.
Oh, that's so cool.
So as far as I'm concerned, they have the same birthday, and he was meant to come into our lives. And we have 2 other dogs. We have a little Maltese Terrier mix that I've had since she's 9. So I've had her 7.5 years. And we have a little Chiweenie. I always tell him, you're loud and you're dumb, but we love you. Lucy handles cats just fine. Nike, the Chiweenie, we've never really tried. And Oli, the husky, I don't want to find out.
Yeah.
So I get to enjoy your cat.
Not in the bad way. You certainly don't want to find out. And I know that my kiddo keeps asking for another cat or a dog. And I'm like, I don't know how the cat is going to react to another cat. I'm sure that like eventually she'll be fine with another dog, but another cat, I mean, she barely tolerates the dog sometimes. So, I mean, they get along, fairly well, but, sometimes they have their little moments. And it's normally like when things are calm and we're sitting on the couch and then all of a sudden they'll start chasing each other like crazy, and it's like, are they playing? Are they like truly kind of annoyed with each other? I don't know.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Maybe like actual, children. Are they playing? Are they annoyed with each other? Probably some both.
Yeah, a little bit of both. Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, good. Well, anyway, welcome to the Stress Mess podcast. Thanks for joining. I know that we have had quite a bit of conversations, about, our businesses and, what to do. Of course, for people that don't know on the podcast, I have Samantha Elizabeth Coaching and Consulting. And you have a business too.
I have a business too. It's called Purple Page Marketing, specialize in content marketing and marketing strategy for businesses who, for whatever reason, are just not ready for a full service agency yet. And so I make their dollars stretch as much as I possibly can, still protecting the integrity of what they're getting, but keeping budget in mind during the process. And I only do things for my clients that I'm really, really, really good at. I don't learn new skills on their dimes. If there's something that I don't know how to do or I'm not particularly good at, I'll either outsource it or refer them to another partner. And I only partner with people that I trust. I know that I'm giving them the best head start they can get.
And that is, something about businesses too, because I was working as a consultant for a while. One of the things is that our sales team, and this is within a company, one of the things our sales team would always do is that no matter what, so now my dog is joining us. One of the things that our salespeople would always do is that they would promise the world to our clients, and they, clients would be, and this is towards, the time that a lot of companies were moving for their employees, to paper things. And this wasn't too long ago. So this is companies obviously stuck back in the thing, but going to a digital. And so they wanted websites for their stuff. They wanted, like a portal or an intranet. What ended up happening is our sales team had promised to a client, hey, we can build a website for you. And then they turned around to us and said, hey, build a website. And we're like, we've never done that before. So we had to do, the research, and we had to put it in, and we ended up, charging them quite a bit for this website. That it was our first iteration of ever doing something like that. We should have not charged them for that. Like, honestly, because we were on the struggle bus for a couple of months to try to get up that and going. So I totally see that. I try not to promise, the above and beyond, what I can do too, because it is stressful, especially if you have a deadline or something and you're trying to give them a great product in the end. It's not something that you want to not put your best foot forward. And so, yeah, that's a lot of stress, is when you promise something and you're like thinking, oh, I'll just figure it out. That's why there's experts.
Right. It's much more cost effective for the client, and it allows me to focus on the things that I really need to be doing when I let a professional do it. Like
Yeah.
logo design, for instance. I don't have the right tools. I am not a graphic designer. I specialize in branding, but that's just not the same thing as creating a logo. I have a handful of designers that I know well and trust to take good care of my clients, and I choose designer that I think is the best match for them, and I give the client the choice. Do they want me to manage the process for them, or
Yep.
do they want to be the end client themselves? Usually they let me manage the process for them, keeps the stress down for them, and I
Yeah.
don't charge a markup. I just charge a small hourly for the time that I actually have to take doing the doing of it, and everybody wins. The client gets what they need, the developer, the designer gets what they need. I get what I need, a good deliverable for my client. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't see the point in trying to use tools that aren't designed proper, like they're not meant to make a logo.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing is that, going to somebody that has those tools, they've paid. A lot of times people use Adobe, for
Mhm.
instance. And, that's something that you can do a lot of different things on if you have the Creative Suite and you have access to a lot of their different programs or platforms that they have. And, if you know somebody that actually has those tools to be able to provide good files, with the good file and extensions that can be used in multiple different locations, that is something that you'll pay for too, because they're paying for, I think, Adobe, like the full suite or something like that. I think my company was paying like $6,000 per year for Adobe, but I think there was 10 seats available or something to be able to have access to all the tools. And, that is something that somebody is putting an investment into, that to be able to have access to it, to be able to then provide that to you as an additional benefit. What do you think about people using Canva? Because Canva is a pretty fairly easy tool out there for people to make designs and stuff. And so where they don't even need somebody, a lot of times they can do it themselves.
You know why I particularly love Canva? Because they leveled the playing field. Businesses, solopreneurs, startups, they gave them a way to do what they need to do without having to go to a designer. There are so
Yeah.
many designers out there who are great at what they do and think about the client's end needs, but there are also a lot of them that aren't ethical and don't think about what's best for the client. They just sell, sell, sell. And if the
Mhm.
client needs something, or if a business owner needs something right away, they're up a creek because they don't have the assets. And Canva is not designed to be a replacement exactly for all these professional tools, but it makes it so that somebody can do what they need to do with it. I
Yeah.
use Canva for my clients.
Mhm.
And I tell my clients, if you want something more sophisticated than I can do, I won't take any offense. I won't take it personally.
Sure.
I'm happy to outsource creation of some templates or certain images or assets that you need to a professional designer. But for the most part, what I do in Canva works just fine. It does exactly what it needs to do, and that keeps the cost down for my client, and it keeps the workflow tighter for me and my.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I think that's, something too. And you're absolutely right that it gave people the tools. And, I used Adobe Express, because it's the same thing as Canva, basically copy paste with the platform. and you got the same tool, same functionalities, same AI integrations, everything that I have in there, except for the only thing is that it does integrate with the other Adobe products. So if you need to go to design a logo or something like that, you can pull it into Adobe Express. And, that's something, that's really helpful. But I know we're starting to talk about tools and things like that. So I'm sure people are just like, why are we getting into this subject?
Like,
Because
can we
I
get
do
to more
know.
dogs, please? Can we get to more cats? Can we talk about those?
I know. Exactly. I was just recently on a podcast and I get to actually talk about Buddy and Daisy Bell, my dog and my cat. And so it was kind of a cool conversation to be able to talk about them because normally they're just photo bombers, if you will, within my podcast. So I'm kind of happy to like pretend like either they're not there or, something, but, they just have become part of the podcast. But
Most of the time when I'm in a meeting with somebody, they don't even know that Lucy's right in my lap. Every now and then, she'll poke her head up. You can see a little tuft of white, but they don't even notice. And then if
yeah,
their dog comes on the scene, I'll go, "Hey, my dog wants to say hi to your dog." And it depends on the client, not all the time, but
sure. Yeah.
I think it's nice. And I think that's one thing that COVID actually normalized for us is when people have been working from home for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. But when people who generally didn't work from home started working from home, it became kind of a game
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. I
Right.
mean, not everybody.
Yeah.
You had certain problems and things, but for a while, everybody thought, "Oh, this is just temporary until we get back in the office. COVID's going
Yep.
to be over by May." And I like that in a way that
Mhm.
it made it so that, you know what, your dog, your cat comes onto the screen. Who cares? Your kid
Right.
comes in and, you know, interrupts. I mean, no, my family knows not to interrupt me when I'm in a meeting with a client, but
Mhm.
if they do, it's just not the end of the world.
And you're absolutely right. Kind of got those things to be normalized because I was working for a company at the time when COVID hit. That was so used to being in a face-to-face environment and did not excuse distractions at home. But when COVID hit, of course, kids were home. Everybody was in the house at the same time, and a lot of times nobody really had like a good workspace. Because their kids needed workspace, for their school. And so that was like something that I was really helping a lot of people to set up a good workspace because I had worked from home before, but they have never. So they didn't even know what they needed to be able to work from home. Some people were sitting on boxes because they
Mhm.
didn't even have a chair to sit on. And so, like, working on the ergonomics of that, the ergonomics
That's
of
a whole
sitting
other
on a
can of
box.
worms for the Stress Mess podcast.
Right. I mean, I remember we all took pictures of our work environments like at home and what does that look like? And I literally had, something like this behind me that enclosed me into my own office space because everybody else had their own space too and everybody was basically on top of each other, but we had these room dividers that helped us to be able to. Now it didn't block off noise, of course, it was just fabric, but it was something that was helpful to say like, okay, this is my space. And I would get all like comfy cozy and I would just like enclose myself in my little space and that's where I would work. And I would just put on my headphones, listen to music if I wasn't in a meeting, but majority of the time and everything because nobody was face to face. Everybody was in meetings because that's how you got work done.
I remember.
But yeah, I know that, something that of course, we wanted to touch upon, today is overload. We wanted to talk about how stress, and the amount of things that we have to do, the amount of things that are on our to-do list. How many sticky notes do you actually have at your desk? How many to-do lists you have? Where do you keep your to-do list? I know that a lot of people swear by paper. Some people swear by their digital thing because they can have it on their mobile and, they can have it on their, home computer. I mean, there's things that people kind of swear by. And I'm in between systems again for the millionth time. And this is just my ADHD brain, but keeping a good list of everything that I'm working on and all the tasks and everything. Right now I've got sticky notes. Yeah. I've got a notebook that I'm keeping things in as a temporary thing. I've got my tasks on my Google Calendar. I wish I can flip it around and everything. I do have sticky notes on the wall right now. So I'm in between because I'm figuring it out again. I need to pivot once more because when I was working from home, it was really easy to have my sticky note wall. But when I'm away from home, I'm like, oh shoot, what was on my sticky? Like, what can I work on while I'm at the doctor's waiting to see the doctor? Or like, what can I do during this time to be continue to be productive? Because if I'm gonna sit here for a couple hours or something, I'm gonna want to do something during this time and make progress on something. So yeah, I found that I need to go back to a more digital system once again. I have my to-do list in front of me. What do you do with your task list and your overwhelm and all of that kind of stuff?
Not exactly an answer to your question at first, but you'll see where I'm going with this.
Okay.
You know why I called my company Purple Page Marketing? Well, because I love purple.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, part of my brand. I like P alliterations. As AI forward as I am, and as digital as I am, and as many digital tools I use, as many apps as I have on my phone, as many things around the house are controlled by voice, still write everything on my to do list out on paper. I still write down anything important on paper. I still love to sit and read a book. I read or I heard a long time ago, I don't remember exactly what it was, but our generation, we grew up with, learning with books and some screens. We had the AV kid, wheel in the TV and stuff when it was movie day, or then they had
Yes.
the massive huge TVs in the corner that you had to bumperize the sides of them on. Our brains developed to learn that certain way. When we read something digitally, we read an article or something online, our brains take it in a different way than if we read it on paper. That's where like my love of writing, my love of content really comes through. That's my nod in my company name to writing is Purple Page, things actually on the page.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about overload, the way that I do is like a lot of people do. You write out your list and then you check off something that you're done. Even if you've already done it, you still write it out and then you check it off later just to give yourself that reward.
Yep.
Actually, I held up my to-do list a minute ago, but I just redid it about an hour
Okay,
before
that's
our
good.
conversation because I got a bunch of stuff done and I have
Yeah.
a weird work week. So I work Thursday through Tuesday, and Wednesday is my day off. So this is,
Mhm.
the middle of the week for me, and I'm getting all my stuff done.
Well, that's good. I like your process, and you're absolutely right. When it comes to writing something down, you're going to remember even how you wrote it too. Me being dyslexic, I often will add letters into a word that are not supposed to be there, which is great, which is why I have to heavily edit my stuff. But this is something that I do know that, like, however I wrote that W, I will remember that of how I did it because I'm not consistent every time too. I don't have the best handwriting, let's just say. And sometimes I can't read my own notes though. And that's the hard thing because I used to contact like coworkers and say, "Hey, I wrote this word down during this time. Do you remember what we were talking about in that meeting like a week ago?" During
Fireflies
the
to the
time.
rescue.
Yeah. I'm like, "Can you remember why I wrote this note?" Like I remember this word loop. I wrote the word loop one time and I even like starred it and everything. And I was like, what was that about? But for the longest time, I couldn't even figure out the word that I wrote. And then I realized, oh gosh, the word is loop. So then I contacted my coworkers that were in the meeting. I'm like, why did I write loop? And they're like, I have no idea. So it's
I don't
like,
know what's in your brain.
right, yeah, exactly. I can't figure out for you, why you wrote that word, but I was also thinking like, well, did somebody say about like keep people in the loop or, like we need to do a loop on this or, something like that. I was just trying to think of like, what it is and see if they can help me jog my memory. So handwriting doesn't always work for me, but yes, you're absolutely right. It's the most effective. And mine is probably, because of, a little bit of my neurodiversity, a little bit of like why it doesn't necessarily work for me, why digital works a little bit better for me. That is, just because I can do spelling correction and stuff like that on digital, versus handwriting something, but I don't need to be accurate on that anyway. But if it's my notes for myself, but you're absolutely right. There's so much. And I know that like I was just in a meeting and I didn't have my computer in front of me. I needed to take notes. So either I rely on my mental notes to take, which are not always reliable, because I will forget something unless I sit there and deeply think about it. Or I rely on actually handwritten notes. And at that time, I was just taking some handwritten notes and doing some short form, type of things just to remember. And then, like right after that meeting, then I went back, then I was able to get to my computer and actually write up the notes, as they're supposed to be. So, anyway, it is hard for some people to be able to figure out what system works for them. It's a constant struggle, I think, for a lot of people like myself.
And you know what that struggle results in? The reason that I wanted to come and talk with you today is brain fog.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I don't get it that often, but when I do, it's no joke.
Yeah.
It's totally normal, especially when I was pregnant. It would happen when I first had the baby. You know,
Mhm.
that was a whole can of worms, but it's totally normal, especially when people get stressed out. I mean, you have stress, you have, your work, you have your family, you have this, you have that, you have the other.
Yeah.
Everyone has stress to deal with in their lives, but you just kind of figure it out. You normalize it, you do things to keep it under control. Sometimes things just like go crazy. Things
Mhm.
go awry and you have more stress than you can handle. You make room for that. Like one stressful situation at a time is extra stressful, but a couple weeks ago there was just something going on. It just went out of control. And then the brain fog happened. Everything just collided at once. But when you have
Mhm.
brain fog, it's a problem in and of itself, but it causes so many other problems. You try to hide it. You have to work through it. You have to, make sure everything is written down or digitally or on paper, depending on what works best for you. Even when you set aside time, when you have time, get through your to-do list. When you have the
Mhm.
time and the childcare and the capacity through your to-do list so that you can reduce your brain fog, so you can reduce your stress, the brain fog just takes over, and you spend 2 hours doing something that should take 30 minutes. And
Yes.
then
Yeah.
you're just more stressed out. It's like what are we doing with our lives? Like what are we supposed to be doing with ourselves?
I took a course from a life coach that put something together. It's called Monday Hour One. And you can do this any day, but she just called it Monday Hour One because normally people Monday morning, they're like, okay, what am I doing this week? If they hadn't already pre planned that the week before or even the night before. But she was talking about just like, hey, taking an hour each week and sitting down and doing a brain dump. You take everything out of your brain and you put it on a piece of paper. And the example that she did is somebody took out a single piece of paper and they wrote fairly big and they wrote out their to-do list. And I'm like, when I do that, my page, I'm doing double-sided pages because everything in my brain and everything that I need to do, I need to get it out. And then at the end, I'm always thinking, what did I forget? I feel like I'm missing something really like a big component. But she says like once you get through your list, then you start going through the list and actually crossing things off that you can take out of your brain and that you really don't need to do. So you might think like, well, I can't even come up with an example right now, but something that, it really doesn't matter. Or it's something that is like way in the future that you really don't have to think about like right now or take the time. And I know that like some people, depending on their energy level, might actually want to take the time to do that. So maybe you have to plan a vacation or something, and you might sit there and research hotels or flights or whatever it is for 30 minutes, but it's still 6 months down the road or however long, and you really don't need to think about it. But my goodness, you actually have something due that day and you're not working on it. And I know that I tend to do that as well too. Like this podcast, I'm just gonna say this, this podcast is rolling out pretty quickly after we record it. Do I normally do that? No. It's just if you want to be on this podcast, I'm just going to put this out there. For anybody that wants to be on the Stress Fest podcast, please let me know. Sometimes it's hard to find guests. Sometimes it gets really busy for people. It's a busy time. Kids are back to school. I totally get that. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's those kind of things that like this is due. So after we're done recording, I'm going to get everything ready. That is critical for me to do to be able to get this out on time. But you know what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to take some time and after this relax a little bit. I'm going to go hang out with the kiddo and do that. And then all of a sudden 8 o'clock's going to roll around and I'm going to go, oh Sorry, excuse my French. But,
I mean, you could have
um,
said fuck, and then we would have been in real trouble. I
yeah,
mean, you like that Love Actually reference?
yeah,
And,
exactly.
Samantha, like, the the thing that I really wanna help other people understand, I hope, is that, your stress is not always just yours to manage or control. 3 things that were going on in my life right this minute that are just super, super, super stressful,
Yeah.
all 3 are things over which I have absolutely no control. The government shutdown. Personal opinions aside about how they're all acting like giant babies and don't really care, about what's going on in all of our lives. Oh, wait, I
Yeah.
said I was going to put my personal opinion aside. Sorry. My husband is an air traffic controller. He
Oh,
is
wow.
required to be at work and he doesn't know when he's going to get paid. It could be
Yeah.
weeks, it could be months, it could be so long. And I make good money with my business, but not enough to sustain our house and our child and our just everything. I don't make enough to be able to
Yeah.
do that. And if he doesn't get a paycheck, there's a lot of air traffic controllers who are just over this whole situation and they're not going to work. Another thing going on is that my mom has undiagnosed dementia.
Oh,
Anyone who is dealing with that knows exactly how frustrating it is. I actually wrote an
yeah.
article for the American Advertising Federation of Houston a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago about a campaign on Alzheimer's and dementia and the feelings of frustration and things that you get dealing with a condition like this because it's so out of your control. But my mom's condition is not formally diagnosed and it resulted in her losing her house.
Oh my god.
And I'm trying to help her, but I
Yeah.
don't live there. She lives states away and she has dementia. She won't accept my help. And
Yeah.
I try to talk to her about having dementia and she loses her mind. And
Yep.
I'm doing the best I can to help her, but ultimately, if she won't let me help her, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Not to mention, a week before last, my son had a cold. I mean, it's just a cold. He's going to live. He'll be fine. But he wants mom. He wants mom all the time.
Yeah.
He's impossible to deal with when he wants mom and our nanny is trying to take care of him. He can hear my voice because I'm in a meeting or something and he
Yeah.
wants me. And I mean, you have a kid, when they're sick, your whole heart breaks down, even if it's just a cold. And
Yep.
all of these things combined happening at the same time, the brain fog was real. After we got the baby down, well, I say baby, he's 3, but after we got him down, my husband and I are trying to make dinner,
Mhm.
and we're just having a conversation about how we're gonna cook the fish and broccoli, and I couldn't even finish a sentence.
Yeah.
I was just trying to say something to the effect of, "You sear the fish skin side down,
Yep.
and then you flip, but you do it in butter, but I have this garlic parmesan butter I got at the store. We should use that to make the broccoli, and we should do this, that, and the other." I
Yeah.
couldn't even complete a whole sentence. He
Oh,
handed me a glass of wine and just said, "Just go lay down. Just go. Go lay down."
yeah.
And then, I had to take the dog to the vet. Wasn't feeling well. It was a surprise. And the vet tells me, okay, he has this, he needs this, he needs this, he needs this, he needs this medication, needs that medication. And your other 2 dogs probably have it. So they're just not showing symptoms yet. They need this, and they're actually overdue for this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And I'm listening and I'm trying so hard to pay attention. I'm trying to beat my brain into submission to pay attention to what he's
Yeah.
saying. And I
Yeah.
can't. I can't do it. So I ended up drafting a text to my husband with all the key points of the information,
Mhm.
showing it to my vet, who, by the way, is a family friend, not just, he gets me, I guess. And
Yeah.
and just said, "Hey, is this right?" And he goes, "Yeah, just hit send."
Okay.
'Cause he thought I was just like over
Yeah,
it.
but you have to, like I know I totally get that too, and I'm not I know when I bring this kind of stuff up, I'm not doing a guilt trip or anything like that, but, I'm a single parent, and so the thing is that, like, there are so many times that I wish I had somebody else to kind of, like, fall back on, but it's like I'm not saying this because I know when I bring this up to people, they're like, "Oh, well, I'm like, "No, I'm not trying to make you feel bad that you have somebody. I think that's absolutely wonderful that you have somebody." I just the other day, I had a meltdown, and I'm gonna tell you this because I was out doing errands. I get back into my car. I'm going from store to store and, getting all my stuff done. I had to go get some medication. I had to go do this, all of that kind of stuff. And I get into my car and it is like my car registers that it's 100 degrees at that time. And even though outside it was just like my car was baking in the sun and my car wouldn't start.
Mm.
And I couldn't figure out why. I mean, it just kept telling me, and I have a hybrid, so it was popping up with electrical issues. And I went, no, because I had just gotten the whole battery replaced recently. And I'm like, there cannot be electrical issues. So I'm kind of like a little bit beside myself. And the people of the store like come out. It was really nice. A couple of the workers came out, and one of them came over and brought his car over and exchanged out our batteries just to find out if it was the engine battery, the regular one, not the hybrid one. And it confirmed it was that, but nobody had any jumper cables. So that was the one rarity is like having, people trying to find somebody that had jumper cables. Everybody that we ran into either didn't have time and they had jumper cables or, they were anyway. So I ended up having to call roadside assistance and then I had to wait a couple hours for them to get there. And I'm baking out in the sun and everything. And luckily the store let me, hang out with them for a little bit. But it was one of those times. And then, of course, I couldn't stop my car once it got jumped. So I had to go get a battery right away. And by the time I got a battery and I was heading home, I was in tears. Like I had a complete meltdown, because it was so stressful that I wish I had somebody to be able to call, and say, can you come help me? Because I don't know if I can deal with this right now. But I just had to put my big girl pants on and I had to deal with it because I was realizing, that I was alone and I was just like, and that's okay. Because that's something that I chose. I chose to end my 10-year relationship that I was in because it was a very toxic relationship. And I'm like, I chose that for myself. And so, like sometimes I do feel, I'm just going to be very vulnerable right now. Sometimes I do feel it's like, I really want somebody else, and somebody that somebody could hand me a glass of wine and say, go lay down or something like that. But, a lot of times I have to hand myself that glass of wine and say, go lay down, instead. But I mean, that's like I said, I know when I bring this subject up, I'm just trying to bring, two sides, to the same point, if you will, of life is that sometimes you don't have somebody. And the same thing with your business too. Like if you're struggling on something, as somebody that is a solopreneur, you don't always have somebody that has your back. Maybe you have a friend to call up, to be able to get some advice from. But like sometimes people as solopreneurs, people that have that themselves as a service, a lot of times they don't have anybody to fall back on, and to be able to help get things done. They have to kind of like rely on themselves, and they feel alone. It's very isolating in a lot of ways, too.
It is. And by the way, I don't live that far from you. I would have come and jumped you.
But I'm one of those people too that, after it happened and everything, I had another friend that also was saying like, you could have called me. And I'm like, I'm also one of those people that doesn't like to burden people, and so,
Oh, my
um,
first thought was maybe you could have door dashed some jumper cables. Is that a thing? Like I know
I
they
don't
can
even
do like
know.
they can do, alcohol and stuff. They can
Yeah.
do food, they can do this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do like diapers, but do they do jumper cables? Probably.
I probably, I mean, they do have Favor, right? Which is, or
Yeah, there's
TaskRabbit or,
Favor, there's
yeah,
Uber this, over that, there's
right.
DoorDash. I mean, I wanna look that up. I wanna find out about that. Just
Well,
curious.
the funny thing is I had one of those, like, portable battery things on me that you can jump your car with, but did I remember to charge it, to be able, and it was in my car and it was useless, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Samantha, like, what's wrong with you?" Like, obviously, I gotta get my life together, in that capacity.
Well, you're definitely not the first person who had a battery charger in your car and it was dead. You're not the first person who had a pair of headphones that you keep in the car so that when you get in a jam or you
Yeah.
get stuck somewhere, you have something to listen to, and they're dead.
Mhm.
You're not the
Yep.
first person to bring a phone charger to an event. Your phone gets down to 15% and then you try to plug it in and no, it's dead. You're not the first person to do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and there's some unfortunate things, and I think that, like when it comes to stress, in your life, and for me, my stress was compiling, like little bit by little bit on that day. And like, normally, this is kind of funny. The week before, I was in my kiddo's car rider line, picking him up from school. And I don't know what this person was thinking, but they decided to get around me in car rider. It's not very wide there in that parking lot. And they tried to get around me and they were trying to avoid the parked cars on their left, and they didn't even pay attention to my car, and they went completely down the side of my car and completely just sideswiped me. And of course, like, they're halfway down my car with the front bumper of their car, and then they back up, and then drag the rest of their I was just like, "Oh my gosh." And I'm sitting there, and I mean, at first I was like, "What the?" I mean, because the noise was terrible, if you can imagine. It was a very like really loud grinding noise. And they finally get off my car and we can go and park and stuff like that. And I'm sitting in my car for like a quick sec. And I was like, okay, I know that when this kind of stuff happens, of course, other people, the one that got hit usually goes over to the other driver and goes, "What the heck are you thinking?" And like starts like getting onto them and everything. And I realized I'm like, I am not going to do that. I walked over, I introduced myself, I said it happens to everybody, those kind of things. Like, we exchanged, information, and I was like, "I'm not gonna let this get me down." So why the heck did my car battery, like a couple of days later, but like I said, it was the compounding stress that I was having on me that all of a sudden I was like, "You know what? I'm kind of done here." And, the car battery, yeah, I had a meltdown. And, it was just like when stress like compiles onto you, it just keeps getting heavier and heavier until eventually it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
It was very gracious of you to handle it like that. I'm sure they were appreciative, even if they were enough of a jerk face to try to, act like they were so important to get around you in the first place. But it was still very gracious of you, very what's the word I'm looking for? Not ladylike, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It was lovely of you. I don't it was just insert word here that fits the description. It was very kind of you to approach it the way that you did, and they would have gotten what they deserved if you come after them a little bit differently.
Yeah, I gotta say, well, and this is something that I just recently asked ChatGPT, is that I asked it if the world was 10% kinder, what would that look like? And it wrote out this whole story about, and one of the things that stood out to me is that we would be a little bit more patient with each other and we would be a little bit more understanding with each other. And I understand that that person was trying to not hit the cars on their left, that they weren't even paying attention to their right. I understood that. Like, I understood that I too could make a mistake like that. And how would I want somebody to treat me, in that type of way? I want somebody to come yelling at me and screaming at me for making a mistake like that. And I realized that no, I don't want that. And I certainly like did not during the car battery thing. I didn't yell at the roadside assistants. I had a nice chat with him while he was fixing or jumping, my car. And, certainly going and getting a battery. The first place I stopped, they're like, "We don't have anybody available to put the battery in." And so I had to go to another place. I could have yelled at that. I mean, like those kind of things that I realized. But I realized that also I took all of that stress into me, and I let it out, I guess, in a healthier way. I didn't yell at anybody. I certainly didn't rage on anybody. I let it out in a healthier way, which is for me to let out stress. It's to cry, wipe my tears, and just move on, from there. That was, something that I did. That was important to me, is to make sure that I wasn't treating other people have how I felt, you know?
Well, that's because you're kind and awesome.
I think that's just the way we're supposed to be,
Like I
you
said,
know?
kind and awesome.
I wish some other people were a little bit more kind and awesome. I mean, I think the same about you too. I mean, that's the reason why we became friends, is because I feel that we have a good connection and that we also feel the same about how to treat other people, and how to help other people. I think that's an important thing too, is I really feel strongly that if you have a gift, if you have resources, that you should give. at that point to other people, not be selfish, not hold it in. And I think that was one thing is that when we met, it was like you were willing to sit down with me and help me with my confusion, at that time, which is with my business. And that's how we became friends. It's just like you were willing to help me when I needed you. And that was, something that was important to me. I don't normally ask for help, but I mean, at that point, I did. And sometimes when you ask for help and people don't give it to you, it makes you even more frustrated. But you did. You actually sat down with me and you helped me clarify things to release my mental fog that I was going through at the time. So
It's
I'm
so
always
funny
going
you to say that because I thought I was just being a nosy, pushy, busybody, bossy pants.
to, you know what? I need a nosy, busybody, pushy pants
Nosy,
sometimes.
pushy, busybody, bossy pants.
Yeah, there you go. That what you said. That's going to be the title of this episode.
I hope not.
Always come up with something funny. But yeah, I mean that's the thing is that I think that we're kindred spirits in that way in a lot of ways, that we actually do want to help people. We want to do right by our clients. We want to make sure that we're no over promising what we can actually deliver and making sure that hopefully that we're making the world a kinder place by doing those things, doing what we do best.
I hope so. That should be the goal. I feel kind of
Yep.
bad because while this was all the stressors that I enumerated were all happening at the same week, and
Mm.
I felt like a fried egg. Went to the store, did the grocery shopping, and I asked the bagger quite politely, "Please, may I have paper bags?" And he said, "We don't have any." I said, "Oh, well, that's okay." And he goes, "Well, I can go get some for you." And I said, "No, no, that's all right. Plastic's fine." He's like, "Well, I can go get them for you if you just wait a minute." And I said, "No, really, it's okay. I like to get paper sometimes because, I have a zillion plastic and I use paper around the house, like I want to drain something when I'm
Mhm.
cooking, but it's really no big deal. It's really not. It's no big deal. I just have a couple of things." And
Yeah.
he says again, "Well, do you want me to go get you paper?" And I'm like, "No, thank
No.
you." I said, "No, thank you." Big smile, like, "Oh, no, thank you." And
Yeah.
then he goes, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was continuing to talk about it. And I looked at the cashier and I'm like, with my eyes, just please help me. And she didn't do anything. What's she gonna do? And so
Yeah.
I just kind of go like, I just put my head in my hand and I'm just like kind of close my eyes and I'm just like, stay calm. Just he's just doing his job. He's just trying to be nice.
Mhm.
Seriously, just stay calm. And he's continuing to ask me, "Do you want paper? Like, I can go get you paper. Are you sure you don't want me to go get paper?" I said, "Okay, I have told you twice that plastic is fine. Please, let's
Yeah.
just kind of move on." And he goes, "But I can go get you paper." And I just ignored. I just was like, "Please just move on. Like, please." I felt so on the spot. I felt so stressed out about all these
Yes.
other things. And I was like, "Why are you doing this? Just plastic is fine." And then
Yes.
he continues. And I said, "Okay, I have told you 3 times. And now I'm telling you a fourth time. Plastic is fine. I can back this myself, but seriously, I just want to move on with my life. Will you just drop it?" And was I correct? Yes. Was I right? No. I mean, I don't really know what else I could have done at that point because he clearly
Yeah.
wasn't taking plastic is fine for an answer. But
Yeah.
at the same time, look how I reacted at this guy who was just trying to be nice to me. So bad. And then when you were talking just now about how you were so gracious to the people the dingbats who hit your car because they weren't paying attention. I actually thought about a little bit about that bagger at the grocery store, and I was like, I'm so embarrassed about that. I haven't talked to anybody about that. I haven't told anybody about that because I'm embarrassed about how
Oh
that went down.
gosh.
I really didn't need to do that, but also at the same time, I'm like, what else was I supposed to do?
Well, I mean, definitely there are times that we get frustrated and we do tend to forget that. And because our frustration takes over, because of our stress hormones take over, for us, that we almost can't help ourselves, in some cases. And that was probably a time where you felt you probably could not, or that they were kept pressing you. And if I'm thinking about that as you were telling that story, I was thinking about the bagger probably just wanted to leave his post so he could take a little bit of a break or something. Oh, let me go get you that. Oh, like if a manager asks, "Where are you going?" He's like, "Oh, this customer wants paper." And I mean, that's what I kind of was thinking about the bagger. But I was also thinking too that, maybe they just didn't get the social cues or something like that, also.
I can
I
relate
mean,
to that. I'm a little notorious for not always picking up on the social cues. I'm not autistic. I don't know. I'm kind of well known in my circles for not always getting those cues. I still feel bad. And I was thinking about, your story and how there are a lot of different ways I could have handled that situation. I was once at a mall with my mom when my
mhm,
little son was 1, and I was
mm,
holding him in my left arm, but the stroller was right there. We were in a shoe store in the mall,
yeah,
and there was literally nowhere for me to go. My mom and the shoe lady were right there. I was right here, and this
yeah,
couple comes in and starts, trying to walk through the aisle, and they say like excuse me or something. And I'm like, I got the baby. I'm like, I can't move. I have
yeah,
nowhere to go. And
yeah,
they're kind of like arguing with me and saying like, well, you need to move. I'm like, I literally can't. I don't have anywhere to go. There's not an inch of anywhere for me to go.
yeah,
And I don't remember what she said, but it was something threatening when I'm holding my baby in my arm.
yeah,
And I don't think she was expecting me to turn and square up and say, I told you I don't have anywhere to go. If I could move for you, I would. Do not
yeah,
threaten me.
yeah.
And she said something like, if I were threatening you, you would know it. And I said,
Whoa.
ma'am, I'm warning you, back off. So she tries to shove me out of her way. She puts hands on me. She presses my chest and hits my baby, trying to get
Whoa.
me out of her way. She wasn't expecting me to punch her in the face.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I've never been okay, I have been in a fist fight, but that was a long, long time ago, way before
Yeah,
when I was a kid, but, like, when I was a teenager. But she was not expecting me to punch her in her face and her to hit the shoe rack and a bunch of shoes to come down on her head. She was not
wow.
expecting
Yeah,
me to fight back. She was not expecting me to defend myself and my son. Later, I went to the
sure.
and she's continuing to yell at me from across the store, and I'm just like,
Oh
"Where
my
are the cops?
gosh.
Where are
Yeah,
the cops?" But
yeah,
later I go back to the store and I talk to the manager and I say, I'm really sorry because I didn't cause the situation. I didn't start the situation. I was defending myself and my son, but I also
yeah,
had other choices I could have made.
yeah,
I made the choices that I felt were best at the time. But in
yeah,
retrospect, there are just other ways I could have handled it. Your job is not to deal with people having a brawl in the middle of your store. And I'm
yeah,
so sorry. I really apologize. I can't say anything for Tweedledum over there who
mhm,
actually struck me and struck my son, but
yeah.
I am very sorry for how I managed this situation. There are other things I could have done.
Well, that's a tough situation that you're in because a lot of times when people start something, they have low emotional intelligence. And part of having low emotional intelligence is not realizing how their actions are going to affect somebody else. And part of that is because a lot of people live by the golden rule rather than the platinum rule. The golden rule is treat others as you want to be treated. So she might have looked at the situation and she said, well, if I was in the other lady's situation, I would be okay being shoved because I did something wrong. And in actuality, they don't realize how what their actions do affect other people. So if she was okay with being shoved because she wasn't doing what the other person was expecting or something like that, she might have thought that that was, the answer, to something rather than thinking, well, this other person might not appreciate it, and instead she's just probably thinking, about herself, of course, in that time. She's really thinking about not how to actually act, within society and, the polite society too. I mean, so that definitely pushed
Yeah,
you.
the polite society where you don't put your hands on 1-year-olds.
Older lady, I'm guessing, or no?
No, no,
Interesting.
it was a younger, not a lady,
Oh,
but a younger woman and her boyfriend, I guess,
okay.
her husband, I
Oh,
don't know. I didn't ask questions about that.
yeah, yeah,
But we, got separated, and then I'm like, "Where are the cops? Where are the cops?" And she's continuing yelling at me from across the store, like, "Hand the baby to your mom," and, like, trying to come after me while I'm holding my baby, and I said, "If you take one more step toward me, I swear on my life, I will break your nose." She's still coming, she's still trying to come toward me, like, it was like a bad '90s movie. Her boyfriend is just like, "No, we're not gonna do that, we're not gonna do that." I really hope that later, like, he realized, please don't marry this person. She's not someone you want to marry, but you know
yep,
what? That's her life. I don't even know her name. Maybe she'll think twice before striking a woman holding her child.
I would hope
I
so.
really couldn't move. I really couldn't. I really couldn't move out of her way. I would have if
Yeah.
I could have.
I got into a similar situation, except for I was in my car. I don't know. There was some kind of event happening at a store, and I went to another store in the same strip mall. But it was a situation where there was a lot of traffic coming in and looking for spots. And I was getting out of my store, and I got into my car. And when I got into my car, I went to go back up, but there was cars behind me, so I waited and waited. 20 minutes went by, and I still could not back up. And after 20 minutes, this lady that was her car was physically behind me where I couldn't back up. She started honking her horn. And I was thinking that she was honking her horn to the person in front of her. No, she was honking her horn at me. And then she started screaming, back up, back up. And I was like, I can't back up. You're literally behind me. I'm going to hit you if I back up. And so I kind of get out of the car and I said, I can't physically back up. She's like, well, if I back up a foot, I'm like, you're still in my way. I can't back up. She's like, I want your spot. And I'm like, yes, I understand that, but I can't back up. You pulled in behind me. Anyway, it got into one of those situations where she just started screaming at me because I wouldn't back up. And I'm like, I literally cannot back up, lady. So I was in a similar situation where it was like she was very stressed that she was late to her event. But I'm sorry, it was a small parking lot. There wasn't that many spots, and I had nothing to do with you being late to this particular event. It was just a super frustrating situation that once I was finally able to back up, she finally got a couple cars went ahead and everything where she was able to back up. She barely let me get out of the spot. I swear she was going to hit me because she was so pissed. And I'm like, how is this my fault? It was one of those things that you almost wanted to be indignant and just sit in your car for a while, and say, like, okay, I'm not giving up this spot. But at that point, I was just like, I just got to get out of this situation because it was a tough situation to be in. And it's going back to that whole thing. Sorry, dog. Um, Going back to that whole thing of if we were 10% kinder in the world, ChatGPT had described to me of like, what would that actually look like? And I said, that was the one thing that stood out to me. And maybe it's because I see so much road rage and I see so much of people getting upset with each other in silly situations that we're all in this together. We're all in traffic together and, not everybody's exactly perfect. And yeah, some people are on their phones and they're not paying attention. And when you miss a light because they weren't paying attention. I always think like, what if they were looking at their phone because they were getting some medical diagnosis information, or I think about those kind of things. And that's when I realize that I go back to that platinum rule of treat others as they would like to be treated. And if they are going through something hard at that time, I have to think of it that way. They're going through something and I probably should be kinder at this time. Now, I'm all that to say, does everybody afford me the same thing? No. But the thing is that's okay. Not everybody thinks that way, I think. And, it's one of those things that like if we can just be a little kinder to each other and a little bit more understanding, I feel that yeah, we would make this world a better place. But, that's hard to do because of stress. Right?
Because of stress. And
Yeah.
there's certain ways that, you deal with stress, and there's certain ways that, you should deal with stress, but you don't.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a constant pursuit of doing the best you can with what you have. It's true of
Definitely.
everybody in every situation in the world.
Mhm.
And doing the best you can. I
Yeah.
mean, when I realized that I was just not going to be able to get over this brain fog situation by myself, I had to do some things differently. When I really realized what I needed to do, I not the same. Actually, yeah, it was the same day when I kind of bit the head off the guy at the grocery store. I was staring at the meat section. What do I want? What do I want to
Mm.
make for dinner? Do
Mhm.
I want chicken? Do I want steak? What kind of steak? What kind of steak? Do I want this kind? Do I want that kind? What should I make? What do we have in the fridge? This, that, or the other. And I was going around and around and around and around and around, like
Yeah.
4 minutes solid, just staring at the meat case. And I was in somebody's way. And I said, oh, excuse me, sorry. And she said something. I don't remember what it was. She's like, oh, are you tired or something? And I said, no, I just need a day off. That's when I
Yeah.
realized how much I needed to just take a day off. On my one day off a week, Wednesday, I still am answering phone calls. I still have to go and answer a quick email. I never take like an actual day off because I'm a wife and a mom and a
Mhm.
business owner and I have things to do. I went home and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have a kitchen day. I'm going to make lasagna and I'm going to make chili and I'm going to just have a kitchen day. There's
Yeah.
a stack of emails I got to answer. There's a stack of things I got to do, but I need to just take a day off. I need to chill. That's what I did.
And that's important to do, is to take that time, to be able to rest, restore, get your mind back together, hopefully get rid of that brain fog, because that's going to be something that's very important to be able to keep going with your best foot forward. And I'm not saying that your best foot forward has to look like 100% every day, but certainly that it needs to be, what can you actually achieve in that day with the energy you actually have? So if you didn't get a lot of sleep the night before, it's not going to be a high energy day and you're not going to get as much done. And you have to give yourself grace about that.
Is that what you tell your clients for your business?
Absolutely. That is exactly what I talk to you about, is giving people grace, because a lot of times you try to beat yourself into doing things, but the thing is that that's not going to help you in the long run. Sure, you can, take that, my doctor tells me I have to do this, I have to do this. You have all those haves and you're putting so much stress in yourself and not giving yourself grace, that can you actually get that done within the time that you've allotted? Can you actually achieve that? There's a lot of people that do put those high expectations on themselves if they're perfectionists, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. But the people that put their high expectation on themselves are not giving themselves grace, and therefore they're constantly way more stressed than they need to be. And that stress, it's a vicious cycle. Then that stress makes them eat more. It makes them want to lay on the couch. It makes them want to do the things that they don't want to do in order to have a healthier lifestyle. And that's when I have to tell people, do take that rest, but then realize the things that you need to do for yourself. Not that somebody else tells you that you need to do, that you want to do to be able to be healthier and happier and all those things, and stop that vicious cycle.
Is this my first Samantha Elizabeth coaching session?
Yes, absolutely. So that's what we'll call this episode now. But yeah, definitely take the time, and same thing for me. Like I said, I mean, I had that meltdown on Tuesday, I think it was. I'm almost over it, but it's something definitely that we do need to give ourselves grace. We do need to figure out those tools to help us stress less, and that are going to be helpful for us and our families, and anybody that else that we interact with too.
Right, you're right.
Cool. Well, I think this is a great episode. I don't know about you, but
I
I'm
thought
feeling
so.
like we can put a bow on it now.
Yes, let's put a nice bow on it. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thanks so much for being here, and thanks for jumping in as well, last minute, I feel, and taking on this the role as the guest of Stress Mess. So thank you. I
Thank
don't know why I
you.
have to be so formal about that sometimes.
It has a touch. It's a branding. It has that little touch of branding. Makes it sticky.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. All right. Well, we'll talk again soon, I'm very sure. And thank you so much for being a guest.